You ever notice how some pieces of honesty just has a different effect on you? Think of a time where someone said something honestly to you and it actually changed you. And today we're breaking down why that actually happens in communication. And trust me, it's not related to being truthful. We'll talk about it right after the intro. Let's talk about three levels of honest communication because most of us think that we're being honest, but there are literally levels to honesty. I'm Linnita Hosten, and I help organizational leaders communicate better so that they can effectively lead their teams. And honesty is a great part of that, especially when we're giving feedback to those who we oversee and receiving feedback from those that we work with. So, the three levels, we're going to get right to them and jump out of here. The first one is the safety zone. And this is what we call surface level honesty. And this is the one that, when we're saying things that are technically true, avoiding the real conversation. In these instances, when we're doing that, we're choosing comfort over growth. And some would say in layman words, you're hiding behind being nice. So this is when someone asks you about perhaps their performance in that meeting, and you say, yeah, your presentation was good, but you have some additional thoughts behind while it was good, there were some things you observed. So it's not untrue that it wasn't good, but there were some observations that you had that could improve the presentation to be great. So that's an example of a surface level. We do this all the time. And another example of this would be, hey, let's do lunch at 2 o'clock. And you'll say, well, I'm a little busy today, so maybe we can do it another day. When the truth is, you may not desire connection with that person. You have no interest in giving them the free time that you do have. You'd rather be spending it somewhere else or with someone else. And so we call that surface level honesty when you are not quite sharing perhaps the why or additional depth to what you're sharing. Now, some of us graduate to level two, and that's when I feel like things start to shift. And this is, somewhat associate some of these levels of honesty with personality traits. We'd say someone whom is surface level in their honesty. Perhaps they fear hurting other people's feelings. They're very empathetic. Perhaps they often put themselves in other people's shoes. And this next level is what we call direct honesty, and this is the truth zone. And sometimes we equate this to people who are maybe lacking empathy. Maybe they don't always think of the other person first. They only think about getting out how they feel. I don't want us to associate the levels of honesty with a personality trait. I want us to get accustomed to recognizing when it's important to use which level of honesty and why. That's the intention behind this time today. So, direct honesty is when we say what needs to be said and we name the real issue. We also share what I call raw observations without sugarcoating it, as my mom would say, or making it nice. We quite frankly, we choose to risk the discomfort that the other person may have as a result of us being honesty. As a result of us being honest. So, using the meeting example that I used at level one, when someone comes up and say, "Okay, how do you think I did?" You may say, "Your presentation kind of missed the mark. I was expecting to see more A, B, and C." We call that direct honesty. And I experienced this a few days ago with my mom when she called me, and she asked me, "Do you think I'm hard to deal with?" And I said, "Sometimes you are." And it opened up the doors, which I love, because when you get to this next level of honesty, when your direct communication transitions into invitational honesty, and that's the growth zone. So people sometimes equate direct honesty to the goal, But I think the real magic happens when you get into the growth zone, and that's the invitational honesty. And this is when we are speaking with truth, with space for other people to process, processing the uncomfort or the discomfort that we might have caused, and the silence that comes with that as they're processing. When we are in this growth zone, that invitational honesty, it has a lot to do with our emotional maturity to have capacity for others to maybe deem us as unkind, judgmental, mean, mean spirited, heavy hearted. There are a lot of descriptions that people could label us when we choose to operate in this growth zone. So, an example of this, if you are working to come inside the growth zone, if someone came and asked, keeping up with the meeting example, what did you think about my performance in the meeting? You may say, I noticed that when you do this pattern of asking questions, you fill in the blank. And then they may say, what do you see when you're leading those meetings? Or how do you feel that you did? And that's creating room for the other person to process and provide feedback to what you shared. And a lot of us are uncomfortable with silence. We fear that space and time where something's not being said. And I urge you to lean into that. Silence is a great opportunity for both persons to process what they're really thinking so that you can communicate honestly. There are a lot of times where I'm communicating with someone and I don't have the words immediately. And I do have to okay, how do I really feel? What is the objective that I really want? Who am I really looking to target? I have to think about that. So let's give other people the opportunity who may be slow thinkers. I'm a slow thinker. The opportunity to process and being okay with that being done in silence. And, in the instance with my mom, I'll share this. When she said, I asked her, when she said, am I hard to deal with? And I said, sometimes you are. And there was silence. This is so good. There was silence. And then she followed up and said, well, I don't want to be like that. And that was what we call invitational. That's invitational honesty. It gives both of us a chance to have a mutual chance to express how we feel. So she got a chance to share this is something that I want to work on, and this is something that I want you to think about. And I got a chance to say, well, this is what I observe. That's a beautiful place to be in. It's a beautiful place to be in when you're in leadership too. It says a lot about the safety that you've provided to those that you lead and how much they trust that your leadership, although you're in leadership, that you're not being judgmental of their developing areas. So I want you to think about those three levels. And, the goal isn't to live at level 3, which is the growth zone, the invitational honesty. The goal is to know when each level serves their purpose and who you should apply that to. So this week, I want you to notice, which level of honesty are you operating from? Are you keeping it safe? Are you operating direct conversation, direct honesty, or are you leaving room for what could happen next? Something to think about. If you find this content interesting and you enjoy all things communication, I invite you to subscribe or share this video with someone that you like, admire, and trust. Because when you do, it says a lot coming from you. It says a lot coming from you. Well, that's all I have this week. I will see you next Tuesday at around 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you would like to directly work on growing your communication skills, I invite you to join my free community. It's called growmyspeakingskills.com, growmyspeakingskills.com. And you can hop in, and I'd love to meet you. I get a chance to meet those who are part of the community. And we drop new content there every week. Every week. All right, family. I would love to hear, what was your biggest takeaway from our time today? And drop it in the comments. What was your biggest takeaway, and which level of communication do you often feel like you practice? I will see you next week. Bye now.